Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for In Conversation with Alan Barratt, founder and CEO of Grenade, the world's fastest growing sports performance weight management brand. Today's interview has been arranged by Solihull Chamber in partnership with Future Faces Chamber. My name is Kasim Choudhry and I'm a Vice President for Future Faces, and I'm joined with my other Vice President, Sabah Hussain.
Hi everyone, so we are super excited to be joined by Alan, who's going to be sharing his very interesting journey with us and answering some of the questions that we've had in from you, our listeners. So back over to you, Kasim.
Thank you, Sabah, and thank you for supporting me. Now let's head over to the man of the moment. Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've got a very busy schedule, and I know the Chamber have been trying to book this in for a while. I mean, where are you right now?
I'm currently in Cornwall. Yeah, apologies. I think we might have cancelled 2 or 3. The problem is my diary is such that there's a lot going on. And I think traditionally we book these in quite far in advance. I'm probably better doing things at relatively short notice because I think it tends to be more of a concrete chance it actually happens. But hopefully you've not doomed us to failure by saying this is going to be interesting. So fingers crossed.
Well, you're normally in the sky or at sea, so it's good to know that you're on the ground today. So
that's right. I was at sea for the last one. I think this might not happen because I'm at sea. Yeah. All flying.
So before we bombard you with lots of difficult questions, I'd like to start the interview off with you just giving us a brief overview of your journey so far and sort of, where you started off and, some of the highs, some of the lows, and, what does the future hold for you?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it'll be brief, but I grew up in Birmingham, so I've always lived here. I've always been interested in weight training and performance, and especially performance nutrition, because I was never a particularly good eater. And performance nutrition didn't really exist 30 years ago. So yeah, I did pretty well at school. I was kind of quite lazy at school, but quite intelligent. I didn't really enjoy school. And I think I always had this entrepreneurial stubborn streak where I just wanted to go and do my own thing. And normally if everyone's going one way, I'm kind of going the other way. So I actually dropped out of A-levels after a year because I just hated it. Education just wasn't for me. And I went to work in a gym at minimum wage just because I enjoyed it. And that was in 1992. And it just got me into that gym network in Birmingham. This was I actually went there on work experience originally when I was 15. But dropped out of A-levels, went to work at this gym full time, and I just absolutely loved it. And I learnt about people, met a lot of different people from all walks of life, and I learnt a lot about training, a lot about nutrition. And I think I probably always had this idea that nutrition and performance nutrition, for instance, could benefit more than just people who were weight training. This time it was very much kind of a hardcore bodybuilding type scene, but I could see the benefits of doing resistance training, as we call it now. And I think now pretty much everyone does it in some way, shape or form. If you're doing resistance training in some in some way, shape or form, then you're probably effectively bodybuilding, if you're toning and working muscles. So pretty much now everyone does it. And I think I probably saw this 30 years ago and saw the benefit that supplements could have versus food, because a lot of people are quite lazy eaters. You've got to be quite organised and quite disciplined to be to have a good diet as such. So I worked at this gym until 1998. So did my sort of apprenticeship, so to speak, in the sports nutrition industry in this gym. And then in 1999, I left and set up my own distribution business called Fusion, which was importing mostly American-made sports nutrition products into the UK and distributing that. I did that till 2008. And then, that business did well, but I kind of fell out of love with it. And then at that point, I was a distributor. So I was always in the middle between the brand and the consumer, and had the idea of Grenade just having one product, where in which case it was a weight loss product, called Grenade. It was that thermodetonator bottle that everyone knows. Developed as one product. I wanted to become the Red Bull of sports nutrition, just having one product, wanted to put it absolutely everywhere. I actually sold my distribution business in order to actually follow that path, which most people would have said I was mad. But it was my wife and I at the time. We started this business, Grenade, with £500 back in 2010. In 2014, then we sold shares for 35 million. Then we hit the reset button and carried on, and then we sold some more shares for 72 million back in 2017. and then recently a £200 million exit to Mondelez, who own Cadbury. There's obviously a lot of detail I've skipped over in terms of the growth of the business, but ultimately the dedicated sports nutrition product and the weight loss product we started with, which we still sell, is still really popular, that evolved into now the protein bars and protein shakes that everyone knows. So, we didn't invent protein bars, we didn't invent protein shakes, but we invented good ones, and we put them everywhere. So anywhere that you could go and buy, Cadbury's Dairy Milk or, a can of Coke, you probably find one of our products right next to it. And that's very much how the industry's evolved over the last 20, 30 years now. People are just a lot more conscious over what they eat, what they put in the body. Everyone's busy. And a lot of people don't want, an energy drink, pasty or a sandwich. If they go to a petrol station, now they're probably going to pick up one of our bars or shakes, have something high protein, low sugar, and then carry on the day and just make a better choice with food. So yeah, just done the deal this year with Mondelez and still finding our feet with that. But we've certainly got the best partner we could ever wish for. Monumental brand. I mean, Cadbury's is $1 billion, I think, just in the UK alone, revenue. So can't think of a better partner for us now as we continue to grow the business. And it does feel like we're just getting started.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alan. And, Cadbury's a brand that was born in Birmingham. Grenade, another brand born in the Midlands in Birmingham and Solihull. Was that part of a decision, being associated with something that you grew up with?
It was. I mean, we grew up with eating Cadbury chocolate. And the first gym that I worked in, that Chapel gym in Sturchley, was up the road from Bourneville, and I moved to the next gym, which was Kings Norton in Birmingham, and you could smell the chocolate being made at Bourneville. It was, it was a 10-minute walk. So I think, although we didn't set out to make protein bars per se, back in 2010, we did set out to make products that any consumer could get a benefit from. And it just started with that weight loss product, and it evolved into the protein bars. So we definitely did what we set out to do. And when we launched the protein bar element, which was 2015, Jules and I discussed, we said, actually, we'll partner with Cadbury on this, because, we're far from, we're not demonizing chocolate. We love chocolate, but it's generally high sugar, it's indulgent, and it's not something you could or should be eating every day. I would love to eat chocolate every day, but I couldn't get away with it. Whereas I could eat one of our bars every day, and then I'd keep chocolate more as of an indulgent snack, an indulgent treat, more of an occasion than than daily consumption, which I think is how most people should think of it, to be fair. Depending on what your activity and stuff's like. But no, we definitely said that we thought that Cadbury would be bonkers not to partner with us and come in and partner with Grenade, because as people potentially change the way they think about confectionery and snacking and health and training and things like that, we could just see a whole pool of consumers that we could tap into, that the big confectionery giants just couldn't, because it's just not in their DNA. They're brilliant at what they do, but then we're brilliant at what we do. And it's potentially the same consumer, but like I said, just different occasions, really. So yeah, we considered it, and when we did the deal this year, Mondelez weren't the only confectionery brand that were really interested. There were others that they all fought pretty hard over us, but for the same reasons. We made our bar, our protein bar, pretty much the best-selling chocolate bar in the UK, which really made everyone else sit up and listen, because I think 5 years ago, everyone would have said it's not possible, to outsell, Mars bar, Snickers, some of these bars, and especially for a lot more money. Most of these chocolate bars are probably 60, 70 pence. We're coming in at £2.50 to £3. So, the retailers at the time were saying to us, you won't be able to sell, a chocolate bar replacement for 4 times the cost. But actually we did. And I think consumers probably know that, there's value and cost associated with protein. It's expensive. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we're way beyond the proving concept stage. Definitely, and now it's really a matter of doubling down. And building this $1 billion brand that we always talk about.
Oh, Alan, I've really enjoyed hearing about your journey and just that self-assuredness that you're bringing across. Like from a young age, people going one way, but you wanting to go a different path, and you followed.
Just really awkward.
Yeah, no, but I think it just goes to show as well. Like you shouldn't always follow the crowd. You don't have to follow the crowd. If you've got something inbuilt and you can go for it, then go for it.
Yeah, I can't see the point. I mean, all my friends were interested in rugby and football and cricket, and I just wasn't. I just didn't grow up with that. I was interested in training, weight training in the military. So I went to do something I was interested in. And I think if you do something you're interested in, and apply all the fundamentals and hard work, and obviously you've got to have a good idea and have this consistency, it has to lead somewhere. So I do believe in kind of having quite a distant plan, but then being really flexible about how you get there.
Yeah.
And it's been a real roller coaster, certainly, and the higher the high and the lower the low. And it's certainly not been easy. We didn't get here by accident, but we've always believed in it. And I think if you've got a world-class product, brand or service, and you believe that you do have that, it's just a matter of time. It might quit, might be slow, but I think it will happen eventually. You just have to keep your eyes open to everything else that's happening around you. And I think have that dogged determination, and that laser-like focus that you're doing the right thing, and just listening to consumers. And I like keeping it simple, to be honest, because I was going to petrol stations, I couldn't find anything I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
So I thought, I can't be alone. There must be more people like me that actually just want to have something that's just better for them. I guess, I was probably, prior to buying our stuff in a petrol station, I was probably buying a sushi or something, that was probably the cleanest thing I could find. But yeah, petrol station sushi is not necessarily the pinnacle of quality sushi, let's say. But and there's a lot more people, are a lot more dedicated with nutrition than I am. Or pretty much, I don't really care how I look. I like training, and I eat pretty well most of the time. But if I want to have something, I eat it. I really like that balance. Lots of people are a lot stricter than I am, but they'd probably be a lot more organised in terms of preparing food and taking it with them. But I'm not that organised, so I tend to rely on buying stuff when I'm out and about, and it's quite difficult.
Especially if you're flying up in the sky, where do you stop then to buy something?
You can always eat a protein bar when you're in the sky. We've eaten many a protein bar flying over the channel with the team.
So you've mentioned your wife on a couple of occasions, Juliet, and when we think about Grenade, we normally think about you, Alan, as the face of Grenade. So how important has Juliet been throughout this journey?
Oh, critical. I mean, she's not involved day to day in the business now, just as of March, but critical. Yeah, when we started the business together, the military interest came from me, but Jules is the hardest working person you would ever meet. She always jokes she makes the Terminator look like a quitter. So I think that the combination of having the two of us, being an entrepreneur is lonely. And Jules and I probably got the more the entrepreneurial background. Jules has got more of a traditional background. She used to be a school teacher, but then we met in late 2003. We were married by middle 2004. And then she came into Fusion and she worked in the distribution business with me. And Jules just gets stuck in, she'd be driving a forklift, packing boxes, throwing stuff, she's just got this amazing work ethic. So, and we just love business. We never had children, no plans for children. So the business became our baby, and Grenade was very much a hobby that turned into an obsession. There's no way we'd have built the brand if it wasn't for, the two of us working in unison, because all the stuff I'm terrible at, and it's quite a long list, she was brilliant at, and vice versa. So I pretty much did the new product development and sales, and then she did everything else, marketing, the branding, very organised, very good in a PC. I can barely send an email. But yeah, just this amazing team. And you do hear of it with sort of husband and wives, but I think it's rare to have like husband and wife team that can do it and work together without killing one another, because it's very difficult. But for years we would disagree on other stuff, but we'd always agree on the business. If you gave us 100 options, for instance, of what to do, we'd always pick the same one. So I think if one of us had a regular role and one of us was in the business, it never would have worked, because if we were awake, we were working on the business, and I just can't imagine that we could have done it any other way, really. And you know, it's been very, very, very hard work, but we've just made it as fun as possible, and we've always been in it together. And I mentioned about the highs and the lows. At one point, you know, we were down to £27 in the bank, and we had a genuine conversation about what would happen if we lost the house. And we just thought, you know what, if we lose the house, lose it together. And you know, all this stuff was a joint decision. If we got kids, or if it'd been one of us in the business and one of us wasn't, I think they probably would have been harder conversations. But as I said, you know, we always believed, and it didn't matter if no one else believed in it, because we believed in it. And as long as you've got one other person to believe in it, I think it's a good start. And we always had each other. And for the first 4 years, we didn't take a day off and didn't take a salary, because we believed in it. And I'm not sure most people would do that. I think they'd just give up. But we're not those type of people. So and again, you know, also the timing was right. I'm a massive believer in timing. And as I said, you know, we didn't invent protein bars, but we invented really good ones at the right time and put them in the right places where no one had thought to put them. Because to be honest, the type of places now that we sell our bars, you know, petrol stations, convenience stores, you know, Costa Coffee, places like that, Marks and Spencer's, you know, they're very, 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 very competitive locations. Most businesses now are just online. And I get that. There's a reason for that. And there's a lot of benefit to that. But we sell food product and snacking product, and it's all about impulse. It's all about being in those stores. You know, if you're going to a petrol station and you're hungry, you're not going on the internet. You know, you're buying what's there. If we're not there, they'll buy something else. So we have to be there. And we learned fairly early on that, you know, and actually what we learned with Grenade is if we're not there, consumers don't buy anything else. They tend to walk out. So a lot of retailers now, you know, Grenade is a must stock item. So it's mandatory on their distribution lists, and they have to be stocked. And when you think of the other items that are stocked in those locations, like, you know, confectionery brands and crisps and soft drinks and Coca-Cola and tea and coffee and bread and milk and all these daily essentials, it's quite nice that actually Grenade is in those. And I know, for instance, and actually what we've done, as well as building this through stores, which is critical, probably 20-25% of our business is also online. So this is, you know, we've made our products the #1 best-selling item in the UK on Amazon in food, you know, ahead of coffee. So, you know, #1 in store, #1 online. And we still think there's a long way to go. Interesting to see actually how big we can make this. And #1 in health and personal care as well. So we like outsell toothbrushes, stuff online. So it's just amazing how high the consumption is. And we think it'll keep growing.
Brilliant, fantastic. So Alan, you started your entrepreneurial journey very early on, and I was reading up a bit about, you know, you come from an entrepreneurial background, which is very different to Jules, who, you know, was a teacher, worked in FE and stuff like that. I mean, you were almost expelled from school for selling Mr. Kipling cakes.
That's right.
To people in the playground. And it's interesting because part of that said, you know, your family were entrepreneurial, they worked very hard, but they weren't making massive profits. And it's interesting that you also said that, you know, you were very entrepreneurial, but then Jules was this person that came in and actually managed everything. What sort of advice would you be giving to sort of young people who maybe have that entrepreneurial spark, but maybe don't have the other things that they need to be successful?
Yeah, it's a great question. You see, I guess having that, you know, an entrepreneurial mindset to do something disruptive, you know, as we've done, and see things differently is one thing. But yeah, having, say, someone then to kind of keep the guardrails up. In my circumstance, certainly with Jules, you know, she would have these guardrails up, and it would just kind of keep me focused and keep me on track. Because one of the downsides of being an entrepreneur is you want to do everything, and you're impatient. And you know, if I see 100 rabbits, I'll try and chase all of them. And and I see it a lot now with entrepreneurs, and it's frustrating because I know I'm like that. And I think in my circumstance, it helped having, say, someone like Jules, because we kind of pick one and we chase that one. And I think you get that singularity of purpose. In terms of what advice would I give if people are entrepreneurs and they don't have all the skills, I think mentoring is really important. I think you've got to be very self-aware what you're good and bad at. My list of sort of cons is a lot longer than my list of pros, but I know what they are, and I am trying to work on them. So I think you have to really recognise what you're good at, what you're bad at, try and stick to what you're good at, and the stuff that you're bad at, find someone amazing to do it. And learn to delegate, which is very, very difficult for an entrepreneur. And you've got to build the first 5 or 6 people that you probably hire in a business, and the most important hires you ever make, because you need mini versions of you that have to be sort of fairly multi-skilled, but their main role has to be something that you're probably weak at. As an entrepreneur, I can probably do a bit of everything, but getting someone to do these things better than you can is key early on. And I think that we did it, but it probably took us longer than it should. And again, I can do all the financial stuff, for instance, but I'm not financially trained and I'm not interested in it. So when we actually brought in sort of a CFO in 2014, he took all off my plate. He said, it's the cleanest balance sheet he's ever inherited, because I didn't know what I was doing, so I kept it super clean. Very profitable, but super clean. So we delegated and found people that are just better at those roles. It amazes me actually how many people, certain entrepreneurs, don't realise what they're bad at. You see it quite a lot, and it's fine realising what you're bad at, but just don't do and generally what you're bad at, you also don't enjoy. So if you're no good at it and you don't enjoy it, it's not a great path to be on. But I learned fairly early on that I'm probably best at conducting the orchestra. I don't run around and try and play all the instruments, because I can find people better, as I said, but there's probably no one better at conducting the orchestra than me. And it is, it's my job. I think there's 83 of us at the minute. There's my job to really just motivate those people, make sure they know what they're doing, and make sure they know what the vision is and the end goal is, and stay true to the brand.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is accepting that there are things that you're not going to be good at, and that's okay. And I think it's that sometimes that societal pressure of you have to be good at everything and comparing ourselves to others. But yeah, it's that reassuring, it's fine. You've got your good stuff and you've got your not so good stuff. That's okay.
That's the problem with social media. I think social media's got us all brainwashed, that you're seeing snippets of people's lives that they want you to see. And yeah, someone might do one thing, but they might have taken them 2 weeks to film that little snippet, and they look like they're amazing at it. But actually, there's probably a lot of failure built in, which they haven't shown you. And I'm a big fan of failure. Failure's your friend, but it's got to be quick failure. And a lot of people are scared to fail. But I'm always saying to the team, just fail, but fail quickly, because failing is when you learn. You don't learn anything when everything's going well. Far from it. It's just, it just goes well. It was Johnny Brown that talked about. I went for a dinner with Johnny probably 5 years ago, and he told me he was when he was training for London 2012, he was injured, and I said, that must have been a nightmare. Run up to the Olympics, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And they said, because I learnt loads. And actually, when your training is going well and you're not injured, you probably don't learn anything, because you just get up, you do it, it works, and you go home. But actually, by being injured, focusing and thinking about it and not doing certain things, you learn a lot more. And then I thought, actually, I'll apply that to business.
So just along that theme then, so do you have any regrets? And if you do, what would you have done differently if you could go back in time?
I'm not a big believer in regret, because I think, you end up where you end up. I'm not sure it'd fundamentally change things. I think I'd probably accelerate the process, because I think we've done this probably fairly quickly as a food brand, from 2010 to 2021, through recession and through COVID, for instance, turning £500 into 200 million. So, as broadly as a 10-year journey, it sort of seems quick. It hasn't felt quick when you're in the day-to-day, but it's like, 3,500 days. So I suppose if you break down each day, there was a lot of growth there, but we could probably have done it in 5.
You think?
I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we probably done it in 5.
Different to have done that in 5 years.
We take out all the stuff that didn't work. Because we
It's interesting you say that, Alan, because I was reading people talking about, mistakes are what get you those golden nuggets that actually do win. So if you didn't take those risks and have those failures, you would never have had the successes either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I must admit, I was pretty much the only person that wanted to do protein bars. Jules had backed me, because she backed everything I wanted to do, no matter how crazy it was. But no one else wanted to do it. But I've always been fairly fortunate, I guess, that I've had this team that have believed in the vision, the journey, the ideas, and and things have been backed. And yeah, some stuff's worked and some stuff hasn't. Stuff that hasn't worked, we probably canned it fairly quickly. We probably should have canned some things quicker. But ultimately, I guess, the slower moving stuff potentially is probably some of the most important stuff. So if we take, for instance, the specialised sports nutrition market, it's probably about 10-15% of our turnover. So it's not big in the grand scheme of things numbers wise, but it's an important percentage because it gives us that credibility, the authenticity to go and do something else. I always think, could Red Bull just go and launch a protein bar? Probably not, because they haven't really got any heritage to go and do that. They've got no heritage in sort of health and performance in that sense. Yes, with Red Bull as an energy drink, and it's a phenomenal brand, and we love it. But that doesn't give you carte blanche to go and launch other things. We tried having a vegan bar. I wasn't really for doing it. I thought, we'll try it. We know it's growing and it's important. We did a vegan bar, fantastic bar. It sold okay, but nowhere near as well as all the other bars that we did. So we just stopped doing it because working with retailers, they've only got so much shelf space. And to put our vegan bar on the shelf, they were taking one of our other products off. So we were actually worse off by doing it. So we just stopped doing it. And there are probably other, and we learned as well that you can't just have a vegan bar within a non-vegan range. I think you're either a vegan brand or you're not. And I just think there were obviously far better vegan brands out there that would just probably, I don't think they make a better individual bar, but they were just better at being a vegan brand, and that was their thing for consumers, and it just wasn't one for us. But that's probably a good example of something I wouldn't do, because it was opportunity cost. In the time we spent doing that, we weren't doing something else. And I think, what did we learn from that? We learned that it's just not a big market for us, but we probably knew that anyway. I think, but yeah, it absolutely, you learn more from the mistakes, the failures, without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, in saying that, the vegan market is still very young. People are still learning about what veganism is. There's actually a whole show called The Game Changer on Netflix, which actually talks about veganism being more important for weight training than eating meat. So, I think sometimes you can be early to market with products and they don't sell. And, I think nothing ventured, nothing gained at the end of the day.
I'm always skeptical of some of these things, though, because I've watched a few of these shows and they're very careful how they're presented, how the facts are presented. And I know a lot about nutrition and making products, and it's very easy to show one thing on one hand and show something in a positive light. I know one of them, I think it might be, I won't say the name of the show, but one of the ones I watched, and they gave a team of American football players like a beef burger before a match. And they gave them like a plant-based meal before the match, and the plant-based meal was better. But of course it would, because meat's hard to digest. So, it was kind of based on that, it's like, this is better than performance. Not really. It just means that was better before you go running around, because your stomach's digesting the meat. If they'd have done one on recovery, it's probably the way around. So a lot of these things do get taken out of context, to be fair. But yeah, it's a very, very, very early stage. And I think the future's flexitarianism, I call it, which I think is just eating less meat, and I think just being more aware of what you eat and when you eat it. But I'm not going to become a full-time vegan anytime soon, put it that way.
It's interesting you say that. So the next question is about maintaining focus on your own business as opposed to looking at what the competition are doing. Do you look at your competition? Do you feel that you've got a unique place in the market?
Yeah, I try not to look at the competition, because I do think I know it's a well-known saying, but I do believe this. If you look at the competition, you look like the competition. And I think it's very easy to see something competitors are doing well that you might agree with, and then morph into it. Accidentally. I know a lot of our competitors do it with us, and I do think it's a mistake for them, because they end up copying what we're doing. But we've done it first and probably done it better. So it's back to that, doing what everyone else is doing again. I think they're probably better off looking at what we're not doing well and focusing on that. And there'll be plenty of those things as well. So I do believe that, again, it's back to the guardrails. Put the guardrails up, have a focus on what the brand wants to achieve. I think you have to be aware of what the overall market is doing and what consumers are doing, but not necessarily what your competition is doing. And that sounds a bit arrogant. And we've got, I do believe, again, and we do have this, we've got a really, really fierce competition, and I'm glad, because it keeps us on our toes. There are certain industries that just don't have competition. I think it hurts them. So something that Grenade has done over the last 10 years is we've made our competition, without a shadow of a doubt, a lot better, because they've had to be. 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, you couldn't buy a good protein bar, so we did one. Now, lots of brands do a good protein bar because they've had to. It amazes me how many brands still don't do a good protein bar, because we try stuff and you think, who signed off on that? It's terrible. But the winner is the consumer, because they've got better choice, and product is getting better all the time. I think it's the same in the car industry. I think 10 years ago, probably longer, there were lots of manufacturers that made a bad car. I don't think you could buy a bad car now. I think any car you buy is probably a good car. Yeah. Because it has to be.
I
mean, saying this, sorry,
Kasim, I was going to say, I like how, Alan, you're talking so respectfully about your competitors and actually encouraging them rather than trying to downplay anything. So that's refreshing.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I've been in this industry for 30 years, so the competitors, all of our competitors and other brand owners, they're all friends of mine. So we all get on really well. And again, we've always built the business in the right way. We absolutely welcome the competition. I'll give you a specific example, in fact, with this, because probably five or so years ago, 4 years ago, we were trying competitor products, and they were a lot worse than they are now. And as a consumer, if that's your entry into the protein bar market, because we would like to think, in an ideal world, all consumers, new consumers, would come to Grenade first, but they probably don't. I suspect they end up with us, but we're not necessarily, because we're one of the most expensive, and we're Grenade and we're quite wacky. We're not necessarily the first port of call for lots of people, but they end up with us. But if you end up having a competitor bar first and it's bad, you'll probably never eat a protein bar again. Whereas actually, if you eat a competitor bar and it's good, and then you maybe eat one of ours and then you prefer it, great, you're in the market. Or again, if you eat one of our bars and eat a competitor bar, you won't necessarily just be loyal to one brand. But if there are bad brands out there, and I don't think there are anymore, but there certainly were, 5 years ago, if there's a bad brand out there, I just think it hurts everyone. Because we tried a competitor bar 5 years ago, and it was like eating paint. It was absolutely vile. 60 people in our office couldn't finish one bar between them. And it was selling in a major retailer. And then if that was your introduction into a bar, you just think, you quite rightly, well, not wrongly, but you'd think all protein bars are terrible, because that's how consumers think. It puts you off. So I actually said at the time, I rang up the guys and I said, look, you've got to make these better, because it just hurts everyone. And I think they'd had a bad batch or something, and they decided to sell it. It was a bad idea, but it was, so I think that's why competition's good. I think, consumer, and it does keep us on our toes, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Kasim, did you want to say something? Sorry, I cut over you there.
No, I was just going to talk about, competition, copying each other and morphing into the same thing. You see that with social media. So if you look at every social media platform, like LinkedIn have started doing stories. So there was this whole, Facebook Live, then Twitter had its own version of Live. Instagram and Facebook are literally the same thing. So it doesn't really make a difference what they do. But then, stories, LinkedIn are doing stories. LinkedIn is becoming more like a Facebook than a professional network that it was designed to be. And that was the USP of LinkedIn. And now you're seeing the way people post and interact on is changing, and it's actually going in a different direction, and it's putting people off actually what they liked about LinkedIn.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's more evolution, and I think the users are driving that from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn having to respond. I'll be honest, I'm one of those users that probably do treat. Actually, to be fair, I don't think I do treat LinkedIn like Facebook, because I've always got a business angle with it. A lot of people don't. They're just sharing pictures of their kids. I just think that's a bit weird on LinkedIn. But if there's a business angle for it, or it's work related in some way, fine. But I do think, the users on platforms dictate the type of content that those platforms end up sort of promoting without a shadow of a doubt, because I was sharing like us having Nerf gun wars and stuff, but we were doing it in the office. So, to me, that was probably quite a good thing for LinkedIn, because it was in the office.
I mean, I got accused of using my nan to promote my LinkedIn profile, because we did a business charity event and I took my nan to it, and I posted a picture of myself with her. But there was a business angle to the post. It was about the fact that it was a business event, and it was a family event as well, and all the rest of it. But I think for me, it's this whole, you've got stories, you've got LinkedIn Live, and it's just copying exactly what the competition are doing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, I completely get your point. I mean, I think, don't you get defending your LinkedIn stories, Kasim? You're inappropriate. Your fact that should be on Facebook. I'll be honest, like, I'm sort of anti-social media. I hate it. It's a necessary evil. I like to use Facebook and stuff just for family and friends and sort of seeing what they do. I'm probably one of the only people I know that actually knows people on the Facebook profile. Why people accept people they don't know on the Facebook profile, which is kind of quite common, just baffles me, because I think there's Instagram and other platforms potentially for that. But yeah, not so much now, but I get people to message me, and I'll share something on LinkedIn, for instance, and someone will message me and I'll just put, oh, Facebook, not LinkedIn, and you think, look, if you don't like it, just unfollow me.
Yeah.
These people that go to restaurants they don't like, just complain about the food. You think, I just wouldn't go there personally, but there's a lot of people like moaning. So I don't get it so much anymore. And I think now as well, you do get people do come to your defense. I shared something the other week. Now again, it was just a mock-up silly thing, because obviously everyone's going into space. And I shared something on my LinkedIn profile, and it was like a card kit that looked like a rocket, and our team had superimposed it, and it was really well photoshopped. And I just thought, oh, we're not going to let Bezos and Branson have all the fun, blah, blah. And it was like a spoof thing, which again, maybe that was it was obviously linked to space travel and whatever, but maybe that was more of a Facebook post. But I got this really weird comment from someone saying, oh, yeah, you shouldn't be laughing about stuff because the world's a bad place at the moment and there's floods everywhere and people are dying and you shouldn't be having fun. And I was just like, I don't know what to say to that, really. And someone came to my defence, because you don't want to pick an argument to social media.
But it's marketing at the end of the day. It's you putting yourself out there. It's showing that humour. It's showing that person behind the brand. And I think that's what I think part of your success that I see from myself is, I see an individual. I see someone with a vision. I see someone with passion. I see someone that I can look at and think, you know what, I could be like Alan one day. He's grown up. I can, in Birmingham, it's not, when you look at business and you travel to a place like London and everyone's so London focused, you can't do anything if you're not in London. And when we're seeing, people like your good self, people like Ben Francis, and other success stories coming out of the Midlands, it really does promote business. And it is about the person behind the brand, because business is personal. You've built this brand with your wife, and you've built it together. And I think that's really important. And it's really important for people to know just who that person is, and the fact that you're just a normal person, just like everyone else. And there is a personal, funny side to you. You're not just this person who sits behind a desk counting the dollars or the pounds.
No, I honestly, I hate sitting behind a desk. I'm not naturally good on email. Like I said, I was pretty bright at school, but I probably wasted it a bit because I didn't enjoy it. But we didn't have an affluent upbringing, far from it. My mum had osteoporosis and didn't work. My dad was a heavy goods vehicle mechanic. He was very badly paid, but worked very hard. Jules was a school teacher. Pretty much anyone could have done what we did. And I think, but we've made a lot of hard work and sacrifice. And we chose not to have a family to build the business. And I think, and we went without a lot. Nowadays, again, I mean, I'm the only person I know that doesn't have, Sky, cable TV, all that sort of stuff. They were sort of luxuries as a kid, we could not afford. And people make the choices where they want to sort of spend their money or spend their time. But we didn't get lucky. The same as Ben Francis was a pizza delivery boy, worked really hard, had an idea, followed it through, did it extremely well. These things do happen. Yeah, we're not all lucky or born into privileged backgrounds or whatever. We've seen opportunities to go and do what we've loved, and it's worked. And actually, I think Ben will probably say the same. I don't think he probably considered himself successful. I certainly don't, you know, with me. I know lots of other people I think are successful, but they don't think they're successful. It's all just a journey, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's a journey. Enjoy it, work hard, be humble. Easier said than done sometimes. You know, we all have good and bad days. But I again, I'm one of the only people I know. I've got absolutely no desire to be famous. I can't imagine anything worse. I like Grenade being known. I like people knowing Grenade. And then, you know, the amount of times I'm out and about, I've got a Grenade t-shirt on, and people say, "Oh, do you work for Grenade?" And I go, "Yeah." You know, so, but I wouldn't want to be famous. I can't imagine anything worse. A lot of people nowadays actually want to be famous. And I think very few people are sort of famous and have a good business. It's kind of one or the other normally. So I'd probably rather have a good business, you know, than just be famous. But yeah, you know, we're not freaks. This stuff happens, but it, you know, it's rare. I would like it to happen all the more. I think now, you know, I work a lot with Great British Entrepreneur of the Year, and that, for instance, and massive fan of entrepreneurialism and mentorship. And I think now this again will be the decade of the entrepreneur, where, you know, you'll get the bigger brands come along, and you know, they have to kind of work around people like us, which is difficult because, you know, we're ankle biters, we're nippy, we're feisty, we're doing stuff, we're working when everyone else isn't. And certainly, you know, when we were building Grenade and we just had one product and 2 people and no money, our biggest competitor at the time, you know, was Maximuscle. They were owned by GlaxoSmithKline. They had a limited budget, you know, millions and millions and millions of pounds. And they just couldn't stop us being us. You know, they'd got all this money to spend, but they just didn't have anyone in their team. And I get great with their team. You know, they were messaging us and saying, you know, I think we got the ownership over Grenade. It was our baby. It was no one's baby at GSK. They kind of inherited it, and it was their job. And that's the difference. You know, you've got someone, one person it's a job, one person it's a passion, and you back the person with a passion any day of the week. They were the people that rang us up and actually said, "You're the number one selling fat burner in the UK." We didn't know. They told us. You know, so there are those people out there.
So I think we're a bit short for time now, Alan. So we're going to go to our audience questions, and Sabah's going to start us off. So I think we'll try and keep it as a quick fire round of questions and, you know, answers on that one.
Okay, I'll try and do quick fire because I've got about 2 minutes.
I think we've covered some of them, so I'm just going to skip ahead a bit. So, Alan, what's your favourite flavour and type of Grenade product? What is the highest selling flavour?
Oh, highest selling flavour at the moment is probably depends on the channel, but it's probably salted caramel. Depending on the channel, it's different in different retailers. My favourite, I would say, my go-to, I like a dark chocolate mint, which is controversial, but probably cookie dough is my go-to flavour. Probably more cookie dough than any other flavour.
Nice. Kasim, over to you.
I mean, this could be a long one, but one piece of advice you'd give to your young self.
Do what you did, just do it sooner.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep him short. So that's throwing him off now because I'm giving him a short answer.
What advice would you give to professional services firms about improving their brand in a local area?
Oh, that's a tricky one. That needs to be short and snappy. It depends on the professional services firm, but I mean, again, I'm a brand builder, so I think probably I always like to try and wrap a brand around everything, and I think probably a lot of professional services firms potentially forget that, and just maybe they make it perhaps a little bit too wooden, perhaps. It depends if we're talking about law firms or recruitment consultants or whatever, but, you know, make it stand out, and I think build a brand around it, I'd probably say.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of our conversation today. A huge thank you to Alan for sharing your journey with us, giving us some amazing insights, and just, you know, for being open and honest. And, you know, I think that's been the most important thing I've got from today, is just the honesty and, you know, the candidness of just giving us that response. You know, there is no magic pill to business. You've got to work hard, you've got to have a vision, and you've just got to keep going for it.
Make the Terminator look like a quitter. I've taken that.
I love that one. I refer to that quite a lot. I always think of I always think of the it's at the scene of the first Terminator where it's just like an arm and it's just crawling along and it's got like one eye and it's sort of like doing this, just won't give up, and you think, yeah, that's Jules makes him look like a quitter.
Wow. Love it.
Brilliant, fantastic.
Thanks for your time, guys. Really enjoyed it.
We look forward to seeing more of your success and more of your bars coming out, and I look forward to catching up with you again in the future. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for your time, guys. Speak to you soon.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.